Hey guys, Omerko here, self-taught web developer. I wanted to show you the project that you could create for your portfolio. So I had the idea to create a rich text editor. So we will create today a rich text editor and we will import just some of the basic functionality. We won't go through that in deep details, but we would add type to, for example, use a bold text, italic text, maybe some kind of links, alignments, use links, and also to embed the image. Let's take a look what will we create today. We will have some section where we could put our content, and this will be the section. We could modify our content as we wish. If I type hello world, and for example I wish this hello to be bold, I can select it, click on bold, it will be bold. I wish this part to be italic, that's nice. So I could also alignment this to center, it's also okay. So now I can move this part to align the left, maybe add some fruit to it, maybe add to look like a list. Then next, vegetable, right? That's okay. Also, I could add the links. So down here, I would embed the link like http www.google.com. Okay, and there is the link. And also there is the way to import the image through the URL also. So let's start with our code now. So let's first see what do we have in our code. So I have a basic HTML file where I imported my external CSS. I imported the app.js that we will use for some of the functionality. And also I'm using the icons from Font Awesome for that toolbar. Inside of CSS, I have just the empty CSS, maybe some styling, that default styling that we should have. And the app.js file is totally empty. So we will first start with coding our HTML markup for our text editor. I will create a section div with main content class. We will wrap our content with this div, so we could also center it on a screen through this div. So down here, I will have a text editor part. Well, it should be called toolbar, but text editor header is fine. So here I would add that text editor header section with that class. I will add here also the end comment, end of text editor header. So just to explain to you, each of those icons will be individual buttons and it will be clickable. And when we click on that icon, when we click on that button, we would pass some data through our app.js. We would pass that data through a data attribute that we could use on buttons. So let me show you this in practice. I will create a button. I will add the type to be a button. Then here, I would just add a class of btn for a button so we could target it and style it. Then that data attribute. So this is custom attributes that are offered to us through HTML. So I will create a custom of data element, as this is the button element, and I would pass the data to it to be bold. So inside of the button, I would add a I tag with the class of fa bold to get that bold icon. So basically this data element attribute contains this bold value. So later in our JavaScript we could target this data, we could target our button and get the value of the data element. And that value could be passed to format our text on our screen. This bold value is not custom at all. In modern browsers there is the option to use this type of formatting on text editors. So the bold is basically the name of that formatting that will make our text bold. So this is not something that I created, but it is imported in our browsers. So let's copy this button and paste it as much as we need it for this toolbar. So second button, should have a type class, but data element now will be called italic, as it should make our text italic, and here I would pass icon to be italic also. Third one should be underline, as we will have that option also, underline, to put the line below our text. Icon also underline. Next one, this will be called insert unordered list. Yeah, it must be called like this. This is how our browser will read it, and icon for that will be fa list ul. Then same stuff, but insert ordered list, and here list ol. So now after this we will have the option to create a link, and that will be create link element, and here I will pass fa link. Next one should be align left, but that is not called align left, but justify left, and icon would be align left. Next one is for center, so justify center, here align center. Right one, justify right, align right icon. Then we would have a justify full, which will just make our text stretch through the entire of our output content section, right? And the icon will be align justify. And the last one would be insert image, insert image, and we will have the icon of image here. So let's go to our browser and check those buttons. So here they are, all the buttons are here, obviously. Let's now create the output down below, so we could use that one. So for the output, I would have a content, I will call it a content, so end of content, that's okay, let me pass this here. So I would create a section with class of content, and I would add a content editable attribute, and I will set it to true. So basically we could go into this section and edit through it. In our browser we won't have the difference, but once I come here down below the icons, I could select this content, and I could obviously type to it. So now if I mark my text and use bold here, it won't do anything, as we don't have our functionality. Before our functionality we could add some stylings and put this into center of our screen and make it a bit nicer. So for our stylings, we will style our main content first. So main content. So let's first put our main section in the center of our screen. So target this main content, and let's put the width to it first of 500 pixel. Then position will be absolute. We will move it from top by 50% and left by 50%, and we will use transform, translate x minus 50%, and translate epsilon minus 50%. Also I will add some box shadow here, so box shadow could be 0, 10 pixels and 20 pixels. I will use RGBA here, use a black one, so 0, 0, 0, but 0.19 for transparency. So now to move ourselves to a text editor, I will put a comment of text editor header, as we will work with that toolbar first. So for that I will target it, text editor header, and I will put some background color and some padding on it. So background color could be ECF0F1, and padding, well, 5 pixels from all sides, from each side will be okay. And now to style our buttons inside of the text editor header. So I will use text editor header and target each button inside. And for those, I will remove border and outline. I will set those to none, so we don't have those. I will set the background color maybe to transparent, so it could look as same as the background of it. And I would just put a margin on each of the icons on the right side, so we could a bit stretch those icons so they don't look like stacked together. So border none, then outline none, then background color should be transparent, and margin right 5 pixels. That's okay. So now our content section where we will render our content. So content, let's target it, content, yeah. And for this I would have a fixed height, well, a minimal height. Then the border should be at least 1 pixel, but we shouldn't have the border at the top as we already have that toolbar, and maybe some padding. So minimal height should be 200 pixel, then border should be 1 pixel solid. Well, let's put the same color as we have it in our text editor header. Then border top should be 0 as we don't need it, but padding, well, 20 pixels, so we could have more spacings. So now we finished with our CSS. Let's just see how this looks in a browser. In our browser, this is what we see now, and obviously there is that toolbar. There is one issue: when we hover over those icons, we don't have the pointer cursor. I will fix that in a second. And here, this is obviously editable fully, and there is a 200 height to it. The box shadow looks nice. There is a margin right to each of the icons, so those are not stacked on the left side. There is also padding here, and obviously padding here from our text on the left top, so that's great. Now let's fix this cursor and let's move to JavaScript functionality. So I will on my button add the cursor of pointer, and that should have done the work. So now to our app.js. Here I would have 2 parts of my code. I would have elements that we would grab from our HTML, and I will also have an event that we would run, and on that event we would run some method to basically do our functionality. So here in elements I will grab my buttons. So basically const of elements would be equal to document dot query selector, but not selector all. We need to select all of those buttons. That button, we would select all of the elements inside of our document that has the class of button, and those will be basically each of our buttons like this, right? So now we can loop through those buttons with for each method and add event listener on every of those. So here I would use elements dot for each. So this method will just loop through our elements, through our array of buttons, and we would get the element for each of those. And once we get that element, I would create the event listener on that element. So element dot add event listener, we would listen for click event, and we would run some method. Here I would add the arrow function for it. So here in this method I would create the let of command, and this command should be equal to that data attribute that we set. So we would use element dot data set. This is something that we could use, and we would listen for the data set of element name. So once we go here in index our HTML file, we would have that data, so data set, and we would have that element name, and we would listen for the value. So for each of our buttons, we would have the command that will be equal to the value. For example, the create link, insert ordered list, justify left, etc. So now to do something with this command, we could easily do it with writing just document and that exec command. So this will basically execute the command that we passed to it. So as you could see, we could pass three different parts. We could first pass command ID, and that would be that command that we have. So command, then we need to pass show UI. It will be a boolean, so should we show some kind of UI? No, we don't, so we would pass false. And we could also pass some value for our execute command to render. We will pass null here, as we won't have the value. So now that we have this basic functionality, we could go to our browser and check those. So here now I could write hello world. I will now mark my text like this, use bold here, and it is working. It is passing that bold command, and the browser is reading that and executing our command. This world should be italic, nice. Then all of this should be underlined. Yes, there is an underline. Now let's create apple list, works, great. Then orange, okay, works. Let's check the ordered list. So for the ordered list we could add bread, maybe to add milk. Yeah, that is working. Then let's add that URL. Well, null. Why null? Well, you remember that we passed the null value as the third value for execute command, and for the links we should do the different thing. I will show you in a second, but let's check alignment now. So here hello world should go in center, nice. This should be right aligned, okay, it is. This could be stretched. Well, it is probably stretched, but we cannot check that. And yeah, this could be left on the left side. Also, if I use my insert image, it will just add the empty image as we pass the null. So for the insert image and create link commands, we need to do something different. So our functionality needs to be a bit better. Let's go in the code and do that. So now in my code, I can do something different. So basically we need to pass the third value to some of our commands that we have, like insert link and like create link and insert image. But if we just pass here the value, that would be a problem, as the bold and italic and other commands shouldn't acquire any value there. So we would check if there is a command called create link or command called insert image, and we would then execute command with the correct value, and for all of the others we would execute command without the value. So if command is equal to create link, or this should be here, or command is equal to insert image, then at that point we wish to do something. So I need to do it like this, like document dot execute command, and we would pass our command as down there, then false, and here I would pass the URL for the image and for the create link, but we don't have this URL yet. So to create this URL, above here I would add a let of URL that we could implement, and I will prompt it. The prompt will pop up, that kinda pop up to us basically, and we could pass a message to it, as you could see here, and also default state. So message could be like enter the link here, and the second value would be that default state as a string, and we would pass like http 2 dots and // so we could on this default add our link that we wish. So now that will happen on these two commands, and else this will happen on all of the rest commands that we have. So let's go in our browser and check this. So first of all, let's check our create link. So http://r is here as our default state. So we would add www.google.com to it. Let's see if it will create the link for us. Yes, it will. So so the link is there. For the insert image, we also need to pass the URL. So let me grab some of the URLs. So here I would add the URL like this, hit OK, and yeah, our image is here. Also, we could after the image type some text, so that's not a problem. We could do it like this, italic, yeah, that's working. Like this for the bold, that's working. Let's put this in center. Let's put this to right side. Yeah, I hovered over the image, never mind. So this is it. And that would be it for today. We created a rich text editor. You saw the entire project is kind of small. So I think that you could do this project at least for your portfolio. You could also upgrade it a bit, right? With more commands, like you could use different fonts, font sizes, etc. And here is the link to MDN, where you could see all the commands that you could run. So if I check this now, there is that document, that execute command that we passed, and these are all commands that we could pass, right? You could see the list is long. There is also heading, there is indent, insert HTML, insert ordered list which we used, insert image which we used, justify, yeah, remove forward, redo, select all. So basically there is a lot of different commands that you could use. Also, don't forget to subscribe as I'm posting new content weekly. Thank you and see you in the next video.